Hello, nice to meet you. This is Kim Gi-won from Richgo. Finally, the results of the statistical data being released for the first time in September have come out. The data compiled at the end of August has been released. Looking at this data, it is confirmed that both supply and transaction volume have significantly decreased at the end of August. Let me explain the details. First, let's take a look at Seoul. This is the transaction supply-demand index for Seoul. On July 28th, that was the peak for the second half of July, and it has dropped, then slightly risen. What is the situation now in mid to late August? It is currently dropping significantly. As a result, the supply and demand have clearly diminished, and the once hot real estate market is now cooling down, which is evident at the end of August. This red color indicates a high number of buyers, but the high number of buyers peaked in mid-July, and since then, the number of buyers has been continuously declining. In other words, the number of buyers who are looking to purchase is steadily decreasing, while the number of sellers has been increasing again since mid-August. And now, the rental supply and demand situation is quite similar. It's not just Seoul. If you look at Gyeonggi province, how is it? The supply and demand peaked on August 18 and has been declining since then, right? For 2 consecutive weeks, the number of buyers, represented by the red line, has been decreasing, while the number of sellers, represented by the blue line, is increasing again. Therefore, the once vibrant market in Gyeonggi province is now clearly cooling down. In the case of Incheon, August 25th was the peak. The mid to late period was the hottest, and now it is starting to cool down a bit. However, in the case of Incheon, the rental market is continuing to heat up. As you can see, the overall energy in the metropolitan area, especially in Seoul, is currently cooling down significantly. These trends are being confirmed by the data. And what about Ulsan, which I mentioned has a high potential for improvement? In Ulsan, the number of buyers is increasing, while the number of sellers is decreasing. In this situation, the supply and demand are continuously improving. Therefore, in the case of Ulsan, the market is getting better. As for Cheongbuk, it has taken a sharp downturn to the left. In Cheongbuk, the buying momentum has significantly decreased again, and Sejong and Daegu are still lagging behind. Therefore, the conditions for transactions and rental supply remain unfavorable. And in the case of Busan, the situation is still not good. Jeonnam and Gwangju are also still facing a poor market. Therefore, the once hot metropolitan market is now clearly showing a decline in energy, as confirmed by the data. This week, specifically, on September 9th, Tuesday, the first data for September will be compiled and released this Friday. And since Chuseok is next week, I will film right after the holiday, and the video should be uploaded by the end of next week. I believe that data will clearly show the movements in September. Now, let's take a look at the transaction volume data instead of the supply and demand. What do you think? The transactions sharply dropped in Seoul. What does that mean? Transactions have clearly decreased. Gyeonggi province and Ulsan have also declined. As a result, a significant number of regions have shifted to the left and downward. Shifting to the left indicates a decrease in transaction volume, specifically in sales transactions, while moving downward signifies a reduction in rental transactions. As you can see, many regions are indeed moving to the left or downward. Some areas in Daegu are slightly improving, and Gwangju is also showing some progress, along with Jeonbuk and Jeju. However, since the overall figures are still poor, these improvements are not significant. In the case of Seoul, it reached its peak on July 21 and has been steadily declining since then. The data released on September 1 clearly shows that transactions have significantly decreased. It is clear that the energy in the sales market has significantly diminished since the end of August. In the case of Incheon, it is still doing relatively well. The hot upward trend in Seoul peaked in July when it was at its hottest. This trend has spread, and while Incheon is still quite hot, it is expected that the energy will likely decline after September. How about Gyeonggi province? Although it is not as strong as Seoul, the energy is also decreasing there. Thus, even Gyeonggi province is experiencing a downturn in the overall transaction trends in the market. The number of transactions is decreasing. Additionally, the government is currently implementing very strict loan regulations, so it is expected that the transaction volume will further decline in September. In the case of Ulsan, there has been a slight decrease, but it is not significant. On the other hand, in Chungnam, the number of rental transactions has increased considerably. In Chungnam, while the sales transactions remain relatively stable, the rental transactions have seen significant fluctuations. In Sejong, for instance, there was a notable increase in transactions, but they have now decreased again. As of August, for Sejong, the number of transactions decreased. For Gangwon Province, it moved significantly. Look left. Do you see Gangwon Province transactions shrinking? As a result, the trading volume has completely shrunk over the past few days, and it is clear that the market is becoming very sluggish in terms of transactions. This is the current trend. Therefore, whether you look at it from a supply and demand perspective or from transaction trends, you will clearly see that the energy in the market has now distinctly declined. And now, the stress DSR will be officially implemented starting in September, and this data will be released this Friday. So, I will probably post it first on my YouTube community. So, I will be looking into whether the current supply and demand or transactions are improving or worsening. I think I will make a video about this. The month of September, which I referred to as the turning point for the eyes, has finally begun. And whether those who made purchases in July and August will truly be the winners or not will become clear in about 1 to 1.5 years. I believe that the current real estate market is very similar to that of 2021, and there is a high possibility that the real estate market will be quite unfavorable in 2025. In particular, I anticipate that there will be a significant transaction cliff and a considerable shockwave in the second half of 2025 when the third phase of the stress DSR is scheduled to be implemented. Moving forward, I will continue to provide weekly updates and briefings based on data. That concludes today's content. Thank you.